Heavy snow is just 24 hours away from portions of the Mid-Atlantic and New England. A strong storm system continues to hammer the West Coast. And what should you expect for your New Year's Eve? It's December 25th, 2025. Let's get into the weather updates. To start off, let's take a look at our live radar. We do have a storm system right now moving through Ontario. This is going to make its way down through the Great Lakes over the next 24 hours and out towards the Mid-Atlantic and New England coast. So this is the storm system that we're talking about tomorrow that could put some snow down in Philly, New York City, Long Island, portions of upstate New York, northeastern PA, Connecticut. We're going to get into the details of this storm and how much snow you could see out there in the Mid-Atlantic and New England in just a little bit. We've also got some storminess moving through the Dakotas, and you can see out here a lot of precipitation moving into the west. We still have flooding concerns basically for the entire state of California. Down here in the south, not so much, but obviously Los Angeles, stretching up almost all the way into Northern California. This is tons of snow for high elevation, and again, a lot of rainfall for low elevation. Areas of California could have seen, when this is all said and done, up to 10 inches in a 24-hour span or more than 10 inches of rainfall. And the mountains, we're talking feet of snowfall in just a couple days. You can see right here from the Weather Prediction Center, new rounds of heavy showers and thunderstorms are expected this afternoon through this evening for areas of central and northern California, including the Bay Area. Given the saturated soil conditions and high stream flows, additional areas of flooding and flash flooding are likely. So take this serious, guys. Make sure you have a way to get weather alerts and listen to your local officials. All right, now let's quickly take a look at the next 7 to 10 days. I'm going to walk you through the future reflectivity, and we're going to talk about what we could expect from now all the way through the beginning of January. Moving into tomorrow, we're pretty warm across much of the country. A lot of low elevation rain and high elevation snow still out west. And this storm system, like I said, begins to move in to the northeast. Could be some ice for Pennsylvania. Could be a good amount of snow. We'll see from Philly to New York City. Maybe a little for Boston. We're going to get into the details of this here in a second. Let me just quickly take you through this forecast, and then we're going to dive into the snow totals there. So this is really Friday evening into Saturday morning. That storm system moves through, drops a bunch of snow, which we're about to talk about. More cold air is moving in to the Pacific Northwest, to the Northern Rockies. That's going to try to push its way through the plains and then down towards the southeast. After that snow moves into the northeast, you're going to get a brief warm up. This should be pretty brief. I'm talking about a day and a half here with a little bit of rainfall. And then cold air is going to move back in, and we could get some lake effect snow and maybe even some back end snow that could try to push out towards the coast. But definitely the Appalachian Mountain Range, inner New England here. And again, lake effect snow. Expect that as we get into early next week, Monday and Tuesday. And this is a ton of cold air again, really pushing from the plains down to the south and out east as we get into early next week. And this is a warm up for the west, but notice early next week, we're finally getting dry out west. Moving into Wednesday and Thursday next week, we continue to see this flow of cold air and some moisture out east, really the potential for some clipper systems. New Year's Eve night, here's what the GFS thinks. We have a clipper system beginning to move into the upper Midwest. Could this snow be a little bit farther east? Down into the states, potentially. Could it be farther south? Could it be farther north? It could be. The confidence is pretty high in this cold air out east and warm air out west for New Year's Eve. The models don't quite agree on where the precipitation could be. Some of these runs put a little bit more precipitation out towards the coast. Some put a little bit more out towards the upper Midwest. So let's watch this and see how this develops. In a couple days, we're going to have a much better idea of who could potentially see snow falling on New Year's Eve, because I do think someone up there in the north or northeast could have snow falling at midnight on New Year's Eve. Then we push past New Year's Eve. That cold air continues to push into the east, and this ridge continues to hold for a little bit while longer out west, but then eventually you can see getting into January 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we start to get our polar jet, at least on the GFS, collapsing. And I've been talking about this for a while. Negative PNA, negative NAO, and if our Arctic oscillation can stay negative, this jet could start collapsing pretty far to the south, and this is when you get the potential for a snowstorm down here in the south. Who knows? New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, the Carolinas, portions of northern Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama. If you do get this jet collapsing very far to the south and you kind of get like a cold zonal flow down here, you can get a snowstorm that skirts down the coast here. So interesting time frame to watch. And you can see, I don't really love looking all the way at the end of the GFS run, but continuing to see our jet pretty far south. So I've been talking about this in my videos, end of the first week, into the second week, maybe even into the third week of January. Does that polar jet actually, as we're seeing on some of these ensembles and the Euro Weekly, does that polar jet actually try to sink to the south and give us an opportunity for some southern snow? I think it's possible. Also, if that happens though, we're going to end up being pretty dry up here. Could be pretty dry snow-wise early January if we do see that happen. Something to keep an eye on, and I'm going to keep you guys updated on that. I quickly wanted to show you the GraphCast model. So next gen model, AI model, it does see the potential for a little bit of snow up here on midnight. Maybe snow, Chicago, Central, Illinois, maybe a little bit here in Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas. Something to watch. Like I said, there are some models that have this jet a little bit more collapsed, and that do show the potential for some snow falling through this region on New Year's Eve at midnight. All right, so let's talk about tomorrow's snowstorm. This is the national blend. And if you're saying, wait, I'm seeing a bunch of models that show me getting much more snow than this. Listen, the national blend is a very conservative model to look at because it blends the models that show a ton of snow. It also has to blend in the models that show no snow. So I typically actually add a couple inches when I look at the national blend. It's thinking an inch in Philadelphia. I wouldn't be surprised if you got 2 or 3 inches. I do have, and I've had this prediction for a couple of days now, maybe even a few days. I posted on my X account that I thought 1 to 3 for Philly. This storm has started to shift a little bit to the north, so that's not great for Philly. We're still seeing snow accumulation in Philly tomorrow, though. But a little bit of shift to the north. You could end up with a little more sleet, ice. We're going to have to watch that closely. Now, once we get into central Jersey, up into northeastern PA, it starts to look pretty good. 3 inches. Up to 5, maybe even up to 8 to 9 inches through New York City. Long Island, you can see here, most of Connecticut gets in on the fun. 3 to 7 inches across the state, depending on where you are. You're going to want to be west for more snow. The Hudson Valley gets a ton of snow, a lot of snow for upstate New York. So this is looking pretty good. So what does the National Weather Service think? Philly, an inch or 2. New York City, 6 to 8 inches. Same with Long Island. Western Connecticut, maybe 6 to 8 inches. Eastern Connecticut, maybe 2 to 4 inches. You can see upstate New York does very good. This is all 5 to 7, 8 inches of snow. Northeastern PA as well. Now, high-end totals. If we were to see a high-end situation where the slow continues to deepen and this air is even colder than expected, our snow ratios are higher, you get some good banding, we're talking about 9+ inches, maybe 10+ inches in New York City, Long Island. A ton of snow up here for Massachusetts. You can see Boston, maybe up to 5 inches of snow. Western Massachusetts, we're talking about 6 to 9 inches of snow. Down here in Philadelphia, on the high end, maybe 3 to 4 inches of snow. So this right here, the dark blues, all the way up to those darker oranges, this is about 5 to 9 inches of snow. And we could see isolated somewhere in here, over a foot of snow. Most likely, it would be somewhere in this region here. New York City and Long Island is not a bad spot to be, or the Hudson Valley, for potentially receiving that high-end amount of snow. Let's quickly talk about our temperature anomalies moving forward. We're warm right now, of course. Moving into tomorrow and then into Saturday, we're still pretty hot across much of the country. A little bit below average in the Northeast and in the Northwest, but watch what happens as we get into Sunday and we get into Monday. Big shot of cold air begins to move down through the Northern Rockies, really Northern Plains. It's going to get cooler finally down in the Southern Plains. And then as we get into Monday, Tuesday, there we go. That cooler air begins to transition out into the east, and it's making its way down into the southeast as well. We're talking about widespread 10 to 20 degrees below average. And remember, this is end of December, so we're going to get some freezing temperatures very far south and all the way out towards the coast here. Now, getting into Wednesday, New Year's Eve, you can see a little bit of warmth tries to push back into the Ohio Valley. But as we push into New Year's Eve around midnight for the east, and this is what I was talking about. Originally, the models had a lot of warm air pushing in through the Ohio Valley for New Year's Eve. I wasn't buying it, and this run of the GFS is closer or more correct. This is kind of more what I expect to see here, where you have well below average temperatures out east, and you have that ridge out west with well above average temperatures. 15, maybe even some areas experiencing 20 degrees below average New Year's Eve at midnight. So it's going to be cold out there. It's going to be cold. If you plan on being out, especially if you're going to be in New York City for New Year's Eve, this is going to be a cold one. And just to give you an idea of that, this would be around midnight on New Year's Eve. We're talking about potentially low 20s to high teens in New York City. Philadelphia, we could be 28, 29 degrees, somewhere there in the 20s. Charlotte, we could be close to freezing. Atlanta, we could be close to freezing. And then you look down to Florida, we're in the 30s, 40s, and low 50s across the state. This is very cold this time of year for you guys. Chicago, potentially low 20s. Minneapolis, close to the single digits, maybe 12 to 15 degrees. That's what at least our latest run of the GFS is showing. And the European is showing something similar as well. The Ohio Valley, 30s and 20s. And then all the way down here, even towards Louisiana, you're seeing most of the state could be in the 40s on New Year's Eve night. All right, so what can we expect here moving forward? Temperature-wise, this is the next 6 to 10 days. Pretty warm out west, in the plains. Take a look what's happening up in the north, up in the northeast. We're getting cold again. This is kind of what we saw in the beginning of December. Moving out to 8 to 14 days, we stay pretty cool up there in the upper Midwest, portions of the northern plains and in the northeast, but you get a little bit of this warm air transitioning back out east. I actually don't expect it to be this warm, but really this isn't too bad. Obviously, if you're in this region, it could be well above average, but when you see these light oranges, we're really only talking about running 5 to 7 degrees above average. It's not really a choking heat. And you can see this is still the latest of what the Climate Prediction Center expects for the month of December. Pretty average for most of the country, a little bit cooler up there in the northern plains and warm down there in the south. A very La Nina look here. Precipitation wise, the west is going to win here over the next 6 to 10 days. We move out to our 8 to 14 day range, and much of the country is slightly above average. Arizona, specifically the desert southwest there, though, could be seeing a lot of precipitation in this time range. And then here's what the Climate Prediction Center still expects overall for December. A lot of precipitation there in the Ohio Valley and the Pacific Northwest. And if you can get our oscillations working correctly and we get some cooler air in these regions, these could also be the regions that see well above average snowfall. Again, though, I'm a little bit worried about an extended period of dry conditions up here if our polar jet really does actually collapse and tries to put a lot more moisture down here during the south as we get into the second, third week of January. Something, again, I'll continue to keep you updated on. Lastly, I did not want to end this video without reminding you, if you're out in California, please be sure to have a way to receive weather alerts. And again, listen to your local officials. We are going to see a lot of flooding, flash flooding, mudslides out here, so just make sure you're paying attention. It is very rare to see this amount of precipitation falling in this short of a time span, so be safe, and when it's all moved out, you could go up into the Sierra Nevadas and enjoy the snow. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I consistently post videos like this, and I try and live stream every day to answer all of your weather related questions. And if you want to join an awesome weather community, the link to my Discord is right down in the description of all of my YouTube videos and YouTube lives. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream.